Brilliant. Right, Johnny, that's recorded now. So, I'm here with Johnny Whiteley. I don't even know where to start with all your achievements. You're a bit of a local legend. So, MBE, you're one of only 2 local people with a key to the city.
Yes, that's
with
Mandela and President Tutu.
Yeah.
I've interacted with them, which is very, very proud of.
Amazing. Obviously a legend at Hull FC. Lots of honours during your career, European Cup champions. You scored the last-minute try in the last ever game that was won on Australian home soil for the Ashes as well.
On our home soil, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And then I was the coach of the last team to win the Ashes in Australia in 1970, which has never been repeated since,
Amazing. So a different level of football.
I was in 3 Test series with, and I was also in 4 World Cups. I'm the only English man to have forward. There's just 2 of us, but Mick Sullivan, a back, who's got 2 World Cup winners' medals, and myself. So.
Fantastic. And I mean, one of the things that most inspired myself about you, Johnny, is I've seen you a number of times at Hessel Foreshore running around there in the mornings, and you still run quite a few miles, don't you?
I don't run now. I've got past. When I say run, I jog. Because I don't live in the past. And,
sure.
I've had a couple of hip replacements from wear and tear over the years. Because that's all I've done all my life is trying and play football and rugby and swim. And fortunately, I mean, you've got to be lucky in life.
Yes.
And what happens is when people say to me now, why do you still do it? And I say, well, they motivate me. They don't realise that when I'm involved with anybody, who wants to train, that they motivate me. And so every day I do that little bit, which no man wouldn't do. So I'm privileged in that respect.
I mean, that's fantastic. So what do you do these days to keep yourself in shape?
Well, I've still got a gym. I've had a gym all my life.
Yeah.
And, I was born in a gym, and my uncle was a bodybuilder, come catch and wrestler. Went to the war in '39, and my dad went. He was a fisherman, and went in the Navy. And all the men went to war, you see. So the gym became mine because I was the eldest grandson.
Yes.
And so until such times as we got bombed, we had a horrific bomb drop on Scarp Street. It was the biggest bomb in the world. It was mine, and it blew half the street away, and it blew the gym partially away. So that was the end of.
Where was you when the bomb?
I was in the air raid shelter.
Right.
And with my brother and sister and my mum. And when we came out, half the house had disappeared. So we had to go and sleep in the hall at St John's down St George's Road. And just by chance, I'm a trustee. We knocked the hall down, and I'm a trustee. We built a youth club.
Right.
£1 million we got finished up being donated, and built the youth club. So I'm very, very proud that I was baptised at St John's Church, and Mum and Dad were married there. And to see this new concept, which is proving hugely successful, because it's a deprived area around Woodcock Street, St George's Road, and etc. So I'm quite proud that along the line I've been able to contribute something back into the community.
Excellent. I mean, you're 84 now, Johnny.
83.
83, sorry.
Yeah. 83.
What's the secret of keeping your health as you get older? Because to me, you're almost everything that we should look to in health. It's not just about being fit; it's about still being fit in 10 years' time, in 20 years' time, in 30 years' time. As we get older, it's about keeping that movement ability. Have you had to change your training much as you've gotten older?
No, I just to be fair, the first ingredient is you have to have a look.
Yeah.
In life, no one can legislate what tomorrow brings in relationship to illnesses and
Yes.
And, you know,
Yeah, of course.
and you know, and a lot of people haven't got access to various things and what have you. So, you know, my life has been, you know, through Old Boys Club and through professional rugby and my integration with all the sportsmen. I've been privileged because of who I am.
Yeah.
All the years to have access to all the best athletes in the city, and like you interviewing me, I've been able to sort of pick their brains
Yes.
and get the best of their knowledge. So, and you know, I want to go to academic at school because we got bombed and you didn't go to school very, very much. And I didn't relate to education. So, you know, in later years you think, well, what you've missed in life, and sort of self-educate himself. And, you know, I tell this to a lot of people. When I was in Australia in 1958 as a player, I was sat around the table with 6 of the world's best rugby players. And we were, you know, just talking off the cuff about our general sport and everything. And I said, well, but it's all right for you lot, because you're naturally gifted. I'm not. I think that I've got to work every minute of every day to get to your standard. And they all laughed, unanimously they laughed. And they said, what are you talking about? They said, you know, not because it was me, but they said, when we see that you're the man of the match, or you know, you've been the best player, or you've scored 2 or 3 tries, that makes me lift another weight. It makes me run around the block.
So,
once more.
You know, hanging around with other people who are also, you know, at the top of their game inspired you, and in turn you was inspiring them.
Absolutely.
And you were always trying to outdo each other and be your best.
It's about, right, really sharing.
Yes.
And in that context, you know, sportsmen are wonderful in sharing what they've got to offer. You know, I've met 1 or 2 down the line who are a little bit pedantic, but by and large, we all speak the same language, and again, that's a motivation. That's, you know, good motivation. But like you said, I've still got a gym, so I still teach people, and one of the things, you know, this modern science of you know, what's coming along. What I always refer to, because, you know, it's about the basics, like I see you with your class in the country park, running, you know. If you're going to argue about who's the best sportsman in the world, which is arguably, you know, you can go every day discussing. But over the years, in my opinion, some of the fittest people in the world, the sportsmen, are world championship boxers. Because what happens is, you're on your own.
Yeah.
You know, in a team concept, you know, if it's a football team, the other 10 can be fit, and you could have played the 10, and you still got a game because you need 11 players. And I always say to everybody, you know, one of the things is, everybody should be a boxer to start with, because boxing is where, if you are not fit, you're going to get hurt easily. You're going to find out of condition you are because of the physical movement.
Yeah.
And in 2014, and this is what I tell everybody, because suddenly down the line, somebody said, well, we don't run this distance, we don't run hills, you know, sports science tells us we haven't to do that. Well, I say this, if these Americans who've got access to the best gyms, the best coaches, the best doctors in the world, arguably, if they could have found a way how not to have got out of bed at the crack of dawn and run hills, they would have found it. And they still run hills as the principal basic foundation of the stamina and workload.
I mean, the other thing you're saying there, Johnny, is, I mean, like you said, when you were sat around the table with all them, the world's best rugby players, is nobody's born with it. Everybody has to work hard at it, and it's about working hard.
Well, every real true champion, you know, always says that you get what you work for.
Yeah.
And again, you know, we keep I know I keep bringing this in, but you know, it isn't that easy for some people, you know, mentally and physically. But so it's a little bit harder, you know. But you know, there is an improvement to be had in everybody.
Yeah.
You know, because you know, like you as a young man, you've had people who were terrible in your eyes, in the physicality side of life. Like I have, you know, when I was in the army at 18, and I had to take lads on a run, say a 10-mile run, and you know, I loved it. That was super for me. But to take lads who were forced into a situation where they never wanted to be in the first place, that's, you know, that's quite a challenging job, really.
Absolutely.
And I used to find that, you know, by the conjuring and the kidding and how to get people from A to B, that when they'd finished, you know, a majority would say, "How you got me to do that? I never know."
Yeah.
And I thought, well, you know, inner-built, because I say I wasn't very clever at 18, you know, I'd say very intelligent as such about life and people. And I suddenly started to think, hey, I can't do that because they're telling me, and they've done something they've never done.
I mean, this is...
And you build on that.
Definitely. I mean, I hear this all the time as well. It's a lot of people, they don't really feel like they want to go out and run. You know, there's something else they'd rather be doing. But I think we all have days like that. And no matter, you know, you yourself must have days where, you know, you can't be bothered to work out, but you go do it anyway, and you always feel a lot better afterwards for doing it. And, you know, it's always that reward, and the more you do it, the more you know that, and you just do it anyway. Even if you're not feeling motivated, you just get on with it, and you just crack on.
Absolutely, you're so true.
So, I mean, one thing I wanted to ask you, Johnny, is what your diet's always been like. Have you always eaten well?
Well, you see, you know, it's not a bit of a laugh, but I read comments, you know, young Fewings, who now is a sports editor at Old Daily Mail, and he seems to, you know, he talks about people like myself, not particularly me, but about people being dinosaurs. Right. And he says, you know, a lot of them were fat-bellied taxi drivers. Well, that sends me through the ceiling, because what happens is he hasn't done his own work or his research. Yeah. Because lads of my age, who he's calling dinosaurs and bog-bellied, I was, from being 9-year-old to 25, I was rationed. Yeah. I was brought up through the war years, and people don't realise that rationing didn't come off till 1955. Well, I was already an international and a county player, you know, and just coming into Captain Hull, you know, as a good athlete, you know, I mean, without...
And even though he was on rations, John,
he met you in stews, and then luckily, you see, one of the lucky things was that I worked on the fish dock, so we had access to the best fish. Right. And so nearly everybody on Ezel Road and the back streets of Ezel Road, you know, you could almost guarantee that there would be fish somewhere down the line, you know, and it was the best, you know, it was the best. And so, you know, that kind of diet, vegetables and stews was, you know, one of the big things, because, you know, you could make a lot out of a little, and your mum's learned how to do that, and so, you know, I said if you'd have seen the bog-bellied person in my day, they'd have shot him, because he'd have been stealing food from somewhere.
I mean, even though he was on rations, you came into the army. You was a decent weight. You was 14 stone. You must have been quite muscular.
Well, 6'1".
Yeah, 6'1" and 14 stone. I mean, you did well.
Big lad at 18, yes. But that was in the genes, you know. I was a big man. My uncle was. Yeah. The uncle was, you know, on my mum's side, they were all big, fine, you know, athletes as well. So it was to a degree in the genes from the start.
Absolutely. You still eat well today, Johnny?
I've never dieted. I once dieted.
Oh, yeah.
I once dieted on these eggs.
Right.
Eat so many eggs a day, boiled eggs.
Yeah.
And I did it was for 2 weeks. And at the end of the 2 weeks, I vowed, if I had to run up Mount Everest every day, I would keep my weight down rather than diet. It absolutely killed me. It killed me.
So you've always just ate healthy.
I like fruit and
yeah.
I ate healthy and then you see, you know, like I've got a good wife and like a wonderful mum and it's just followed through that, you know, you get well fed because of, well, like all good families do, you know, the table comes first and you know, without indulging it as such. And then we've always been able to, you know, if I may say, afford a good table. So, you know, a lot of people can't do that. So, you know, they've got to have what's there on the day.
Yeah.
So again, you know, you can please and choose what you eat, and because I've trained all my life and I've worked, you know, I never had a day off work other than injury, right till the day I retired. So the physicality of work, you know, you're burning,
of course,
you know, energy up and
you're always very active.
Yes, and then I've always had the gym, you see, like the last 30 odd years, with all the, and so when we were down Northorn Avenue, it was open 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Everybody had a key.
Yeah.
Every one of my lads had a key. So the lads who worked on shifts, there was no excuse. You know, before they went home, they finished at 6 in the morning, they'd go. So I would do any part of the day, and there would be somebody working out in the gym. Unfortunately, we didn't go down new gym, we just use it on Tuesday and Thursday, but you know, there's so many gyms now for them to use anyway, so like in nowadays there was no, you know.
There can't have been many gyms.
Oh, I mean, none of the football teams had a gymnasium, none of them. I was the first one to introduce, because what happened is, because I worked in a brewery and did all the physicality of bumping barrels and carrying bottles and cases upstairs and flights of stairs and running to all the pubs, running there and getting all the empties onto the pavement ready for the lorry, or you know, in the younger days, the drays, horse and carts. And then later years, when I became boss man in the brewery, you know, palletisation came in with forklifts and everything, and suddenly all that physicality was starting to disappear. And because of, you know, I was training athletes and professionally, I thought, hey, hang on a minute, you're taking all the physicality. So I started doing my own work and asking people on building sites, and coalmen, and people like that, and miners, you know, what they did, what decline there was in their industries. And it was dramatic. Yeah. You know, absolutely dramatic. You know, like barrels became lesser, coal sacks became lighter, if you follow, for health and safety. So I thought, well, from our day, when everything was physical, everything was physical. I mean, nobody had a lawnmower with an engine on. You know, little silly little things like that. Everybody was getting motor cars. They were putting seats in trolleys where we would push the pram down Nestle Road. We would, as soon as we could walk, we would be out that pram and pushing the pram the full length of Nestle Road, shopping with Mum. Yeah. Now, they get up in the morning, by and large, they get up in the morning, they sit up on a settee, they learn how to use the digits to change the television over, they take them into the car and by the law of the land, they strap them in, they take them out the straps and stick them in a steel cage where they can't walk about. And then what happens is they take them to school. They don't run a lamppost, walk a lamppost to school. Like I did. Yeah. What I'm saying is, I know people smile at this, but you know, and I always say this, even today these professional footballers in the car park, if they could get the car on top of the one what's outside the door, leading into the dressing room, they would, like these stacked cars.
Yes.
I know I laugh at it, but when you think about it, if the car gets it, if the car park outside the front door, they've got a pet lip.
Yeah.
And so consequently, and so I know about saying when you can't let kids walk in the street. I appreciate all that.
Yeah.
It's something I'm not aware of.
Of course.
And all that. But like I've said to some dads, if my doors were open in the gym, you would drive your car to the chest press and take your son out and lay him on the chest press. I said, why didn't you stop at the top of the street and let him get out so you can see him all the way down the street?
Yeah.
And say, right, just jog. Or if you go to park,
Yeah.
stop at the end of the park.
Yeah.
And say, look, I'll follow you, I'll follow you.
Absolutely.
So there's no excuse.
No.
There's no excuse. And so what happens like, when we went in the army at 18, nearly always was pretty good physical examples of human beings, really. Now, a lot of the kids, and from 18, I haven't grown very much, I've still got the same shoes in relation to size. My next size is 17, I think it was 16 and a half.
Yeah.
Cap size the same, so there's a growth spurt, then you hold level and just hold that level and amaze you. And if you don't build them muscles and heart and lungs and everything concerned, then you've got a problem because your body says, well, to me, this is just my feeling about because of the kids you've dealt with. And you say, well, you don't need me. And then when you suddenly need all the ingredients, you're suddenly lacking.
Yeah.
And I think today, when they say, oh, they're a lot fitter today, that's a lot of bunkum. That's a lot of bunkum.
Yeah.
Where to cheap? In the professional rugby league game, every session, every night, every match, which is portrayed to thousands and thousands of people, they talk about wonderful athletes. They're no more wonderful athletes than we were in aspect because today, they must live in cuckoo land. Because in life today, it's just the same. You get people who won't do anything.
Yeah.
You get people who only do what they're told to do.
Yeah.
And then you get people who do everything and try everything.
Yeah.
And they're no different today. The kids are just as wonderful,
Yeah.
just as lovely. They might lack that little bit of discipline,
Sure.
which we had to have because of the war and our mums and, we weren't allowed out of the territory and we had no money.
Yeah.
So, they've got a little bit more going for them, which again makes them, where we had Old Boys Club. That was our life. Every night, 5 nights a week, every night till we went in the army, Old Boys Club. We couldn't get there quick enough.
Yeah.
Now, they can't get home. I'd say them all, biggest majority have got so many gadgets, so many gimmicks, and they don't realise that life's passing them by.
Yeah.
And they haven't done anything. Like you've said, it's about, and like you doing a good service to people that you make things available and it's there. And we get back to where I came in about Johnny Whiteley was virtually the only gym. And why I created that gym as such was because when I was a young pro, I found that there was nowhere in this city where I could go to enhance the fitness I already had.
Yes.
Because we were only part-time, remember. We weren't full-time professionals. Barring Hull Boys Club, where we played basketball, crash basketball, and murder ball. But off that, the technique and the knowledge of how to get there, there was nobody. And I thought, well, I've got a bit of, without being clever, I've got a bit of knowledge, because I've done it myself, I know how to run from Hull to Bridlington, I know how to get there.
Yeah.
you know, I know that my body will get me there mentally and physically.
Yeah.
I can do that. And so I started the gym for people who wanted to get fit. If you didn't want to work with us all, then go anywhere, just go to a youth club or anywhere.
Yeah.
But I don't want you,
Yeah.
because we don't cut corners.
Sure.
You know, if we run around Francis Askew, you don't cut across a 5-way car park.
Yeah.
You know, an odd lad will run, all our lads will say, hey, we don't do that.
Yeah.
We don't do that.
So you had a certain standard.
Yes,
that you
and
kept.
how I portray it, to be fair, is in England, in my opinion, in England, we train backwards.
Yeah.
So people say, well, how do you train backwards? Well, we train like this. We're going to have people who don't like training, who won't have training. So he's at the back. I come along, and I'm second from the last. But I'm not last, because he's the last. So I'm a little bit after beating. And then we go along the line, people come and slot in and say, well, I can beat them for that.
Yeah.
So I'm not bad. I'm not bad. But what happens, they don't realise that they're working to the last man. Now, if I can kid the last few to get fit
Yeah.
to some degree, that chap who thought he could slot in there and get away with it,
Yeah.
he has to do something. And then the front man who sometimes don't run 60% of max,
Yeah.
you know, because he's so good. Suddenly you think, hey, hang on a minute, I've got a bit of pressure here. And so then we all learn how to train going forward.
Yeah, I can resonate with that. I think a lot of it does come down to attitude and just doing the minimum you need to get by, rather than really putting some effort in.
Yes.
And pushing yourself
Absolutely.
and achieving something.
Absolutely.
And I see that a lot.
Of course we do. That's why we're in the profession.
Yeah.
You know, that's why we have a knowledge of how far, you know, when people say, oh, I'm tired, goodness gracious, they've another 20 rungs before they're really tired.
Yeah.
If you measure it in steps, and you know, like I tell everybody, I say this to, you know, lads who don't know me, I say, you know, I've been taking that 74 years, I said, and nobody's ever died.
I mean, some absolutely nuggets there, Johnny. Training guys for 74 years. Have you seen a lot of changes in that time of how people exercise, what kind of equipment come along, different
Well,
trends?
you see, that's yeah. You see, I've seen so many variants, so many different concepts, and you know, they always go back around in circles.
Yeah.
You see, you know, when you know everybody says, well, if they don't know me, people say, well, Johnny, he's a lunatic. They don't know me, they've never worked with me,
Yeah.
but because the lads say, oh, we've run a marathon, or we've run half a marathon, and they've never even tried to do that.
Yeah.
And so what happens is, and I have never told one lad, I've had hundreds of kids run marathons, hundreds. I have never told one lad to run a marathon.
No.
Not one lad to run a marathon. They've run a marathon because they wanted to test. They've got to a stage, mentally and physically, where they want to challenge everything what's going.
Yeah.
You know, like the 3 peaks, Kilimanjaro, things like this, you know, 24 endurance races, you know, strongmen, you know, the lads have gone, I've never told them to do, never ever told them to do that. I helped them.
Yeah.
You know, like when the marathons first came out, I had a Volvo. I did 100,000 miles in I think a couple of years, in mapping out routes and going with them. And two things I do with new youngsters which I've got. And you know, people said, you know, that's a wonderful, really concept or idea. On the hottest day, I said, right, you're going to run 10 miles up the hills. I said, look at that sun and say, I'm going to beat you. You're going to beat that sun. And nowhere in the world are going to run 10 miles to start with. But what I'm saying is, so that they all start off, and if they get to say 4 or 5 mile, I always have bike drinks in the car.
Yeah.
I say, right, you've shown me now, you can't beat yet, let's go have a pint.
Yeah.
Not buy a pint if you know what I mean. And on the coldest day, run on the foreshore with ice and crap. And I said, you might be running a race, or you might be outdoors doing something, or coming out of a dressing room, and it's freezing cold, or it's a stinking hot day, and you hear the people alongside you who's coming out, your opposition, say, ain't it bloody hot? You've already got to start on them. Because you know you can handle it.
Yeah, so they were prepared. The physical preparation is prepared and mentally as well.
Mentally,
yeah.
Because you've done that, and say, that don't worry me.
So, I mean, you mentioned another good point that you said, things kind of come around in circles. Do you think today a modern athlete, with all the training that he does, isn't really that different, or he wouldn't be any better off than, say, your uncle when you were born into that gym, who was a wrestler and just got some weight and just lifted it and just worked hard,
That's
basically.
Right.
The principles to change, it hasn't changed all that much.
Well, you see, I have my own, I have my army physical training book.
Mm.
I lent the 1948, I lent them, I've lent loads of stuff, which I've never ever got back. And I never got these back. So I applied to the army again, and they couldn't give me any from 1948, 49. So I think now I'm 56,
right.
56, something like that, which I've still got. And then I've got books from America, you know, when plyometrics, plyometrics came in, I was strong on that. But Mr. Chirp, a man called Cho, he won every award in America. He trained baseball teams and football teams, and he was sort of the first one who put plyometrics, into the modern era.
Yeah. And
my best friend, one of my best friends, is a lad called Mike Greendale. He's Loughborough trained PE teacher.
Oh, yeah.
From South Hunslet. He fell out with teaching, and he went and got a post office on Almost Road, a big post office. He's just retired, just sold it. I trained him from a footballer to a rugby player, and then out to teach rugby. And he's still with me, he still trains with me. And him and I, with the other lads, woke up spout on a Sunday morning. And what I'm saying is that if I got a book today on plyometrics and give you that book and give you my army book,
yeah,
and I say you pick me a new exercise out of there. I have every disc of the American what's advertised on the television. Let me see.
The Insanity.
Insanity.
Yeah.
I've got every copy of that to look for something different.
You're saying there's nothing new there now?
Can't find anything. One of my lads was watching Hull Train. I don't still don't see Hull Train, but I've got that many commitments on. And he come in and he said, Johnny, they got the cones out, and they said, this is new. He said, I was doing that 40 years ago with Johnny Whiteley, And not because, but because, every day you've got to think of a new concept,
yeah,
and how to change the routine, and so that people, my pride is, I've had lads now who've been with me 40 odd years and never missed, never been ill, and I say, well, we must be doing something now.
Yeah.
And one of the prides I get, people say to me, well, what do you do? What do you do with Johnny Whiteley? And they go, Well, we don't really know. Because I tried to break it up.
Yeah.
You know, like insanity. Yeah, one or two exercises. Oh, yeah, I can improve on that.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, I've done that for a long while. It just refreshes you.
Yeah.
You know.
Of course.
And so at the end of the day, and using that philosophy of American boxers running up hills, we still run up hills. A prop forward, an Australian, came and we just started. He'd run up Spout Hill.
Right.
With a lad called Billy Madison.
Yeah,
you know,
of course, yeah.
Yeah, good kid, and I showed him, Spout, I showed him all that because I've been going up there 40 odd years. And he said to, I forget who was the coach, Anyway, don't matter that.
Paul Hatton.
Huh?
Paul Hatton?
No, it was Hull.
Oh, Hull,
And he said, there's no bloody hills on a rugby field, boss. That's what he said. Just by chance, on the Saturday, they were playing Wigan in a friendly, it was pre-season. That's why they were doing the hills up the Meadow and Branscombe. And he said, there's no hills on a rugby field. He said, what the hell are we running hills for? And just by chance, they played Wigan in a testimonial game on the Saturday. They got beat 50-4, something like that. And I said to him the next following week, I said, I watched you on Saturday. I said, I thought he was running up fucking Mount Everest. and he looked at me. I said, there is hills, on a rugby field.
Yeah, that's a great point.
There is hills on a rugby pitch.
Yeah.
He went running hills. He went without, saying, what we're doing this for. He had the best 2 seasons he's ever had.
Yeah. Do you know, actually, I can do that. When I was a kid, I boxed, and where I lived in Leicester, in the countryside, there was just some fantastic hills. And we just used to get to a hill, and nothing's really changed now. You'd sprint to the top, you'd walk back down and get your breath back, and then you'd do it again. Yeah. And you could do it, a dozen times.
That, summing everything up, that's the secret, is doing something and not being afraid to do it, to say, the challenge is in there, I'll get there. Yeah. I can't last now because, going up hills, I'm struggling with the hips that, the aching a bit. And I say, you do, I'll get there, don't you stop, because I'll pass you, and that's not being clever, that's my own motivation. You motivate yourself.
You've got to keep the challenge going.
You keep the challenge going. No matter if I crawl, I'll get to the top of that. And so, going to the top of Spout Hill on a Sunday morning, every time I get there, our lads call it, now the older lads, because the eldest to is 74. 74, they're tremendous. And every time they get up in the morning now, they say, it's a Johnny Whiteley day. Because I say, they say, how do you enjoy? I say, they say, do you enjoy Christmas? I said, every day's Christmas for me. Every time I get out of bed, I've got another day. And now the Christmas, when I get out of bed, I said, it's a Johnny Whiteley day.
I love that. One of my other favourite hills on this. Been to Robin Hood's Bay.
Yes.
Up from the bay right to the top. Well, if I can still do that in a couple of decades' time, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
That's
I drove the biggest lorry because I could drive in the army. I learned how to drive in the army, and so when I came out, I was on the drays, and then the biggest lorry, big six-wheeler. The lad got pinched, he pinched some beer and the landlord sprang him. So when it came back, it went to Scarborough. We had 54 pubs in Scarborough in Rose and Robson's. And we took bulk barrels every day, 5 days a week, and brought the empties back, loaded up again to go every day. And to drive that wagon, you got 5 shillings more than being on the drays.
Right.
So I said, oh, I'll take, because I've saved up to get married, I'll take that. And so every day for 5 years I went to Scarborough at 4:30 in the morning, 5 o'clock. And I used to go particularly earlier, so I could go right down to South Bay, right along the beach, and up the mount,
Yeah.
and back, ready for unloading 20 ton of beer.
Fantastic, Johnny. So, this has just been gorgeous, getting all this fantastic information from you, Johnny. One thing I'll finish off on is...
no problems.
Well, what's your advice to today's kids who are not active, they're not even eating as well? I mean, food's not what it used to be. And a lot of people, they don't even know where to start. They're just not sure about exercising. It looks like something only fit nutcases do. I mean, what do you say to people who are just looking to get started?
I go to schools and with classes and somehow or other, the first thing I say, look, I'm not a teacher. My name's John. I said we're going to have a bit of fun, we're going to laugh, and anybody's got a problem, just put their hand up. Well, let's see if we can all enjoy it, and we'll start from there.
Yeah.
And so you get the things what kids like to do. Then you interject little things which they didn't know they could do.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of science about, like I watch when you're how they're responding and because they're older, so that the concept is that they've got a little bit more intelligence and they come to you because that they want to do that.
Yeah.
And like you said, when you get kids, especially if mum and dad bring them and yet they've got sort of no authority over the kids, by and large you've got to have a little word with the parents and say, about what they're eating and what they're not eating. But if you can get them trained, I mean, by and large they can eat anything.
It's a good point.
Because they're like young, their body, like I say, when you're young, when you're smoking, I don't harm you then. If I buy a new house with a chimney pot, I light a fire, I don't have a traffic cleaned by a chimney sweep for 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the same with a human being.
Yeah.
When your kids are all smoking, it don't make no difference then. It's when you're over 25, 26,
yeah.
Then you're in trouble because, we know you're going to get clogged up and you're going to get shit. I mean, I never smoked a cigarette in my life, ever. And I don't drink. I worked in the beer trade 40 odd years.
Yeah.
And, I'd have laugh and lag if you and I went out and were in company, but even then, I'd have a shandy or something like that. And when drink and drive came, I stopped altogether because I used to take people home who had about too many and that. So I thought, well, Christ, if I get fucked up because I've had a drink. And from then on, I don't think, I wouldn't have drunk 20 pints of beer in 20 years. And I was in the beer trade from being a young man right to retiring. I had 2 clubs and I married a landlord's daughter. So the beer was always there, but it never bothered me because I had to train tomorrow. I want to feel.
I think that's another thing as well. These days it's not just that people are. There's lots of reasons why someone might be overweight or why they might not be into fitness. It might just be that they've got a desk job where they sit down all day. Yeah. It might be. Sometimes it's just that they like a few too many beers on the weekend.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think the thing is when you get into fitness, you tend to scale that back a bit. A man, Wood would be a prime example of that. He still likes a beer from time to time, but a few years ago it used to be a lot more, and now he's into his running a lot more, and he knows he's got to be up the next day because he's doing a run. He's scaled it back a bit, and he's just finding that balance for him. And a lot of people.
He looks a lot better.
He does. He's kept his
He's trimmed down.
A few years going now.
Yes. Oh, he's okay, isn't he?
Aye.
He's a nice man. He's done well as well. I hope he keeps successful.
Oh, he's been great for loads.
Yeah, without any question. Well, without him, those would be nowhere near where they are now. They're quite professional now. Where there was always second best to hold in every aspect. Behind the scenes, there's still behind us, in respect to community work and that kind of, and junior development, they're still behind us.
Yeah, I'm aware of that actually.
But they're trying, and this the new concept with the new stand gives them a new challenge as well.
Yeah.
There's a nice environment there now, and a bit of room and a bit of freshness about the whole
place. There's certainly a lot more energy there now.
Yes,
Do you think there's a good future for rugby league itself?
Well, I don't know. We've got a wonderful product, and like last week, if Rovers' performance as a unit, I've seen a lot of games this year, and the actual 13 players, every player played well.
Do you think it was just a complete change in attitude?
And I don't know really. I've always thought that they've had, a team with a little bit more ability than they've been showing.
Yeah.
And then somehow, if we could put our thumb on it as coaches, we'd be the best coaches in the world.
Well, I can tell you something, Johnny. Just knowing some of the players, and we're kind of going off topic here, but it's an interesting point. I've spoken to some of the players before, and they've told me that they've been on a coach to say play Wigan, and they've been saying to each other on the coach before they've even got there, we're going to lose today, aren't we? We're going to get and to go into a match with that kind of attitude, and sure enough they've lost. And even if you know it's a better team, surely you should be going in there with a let's bring it on. Well, let's give them a good fight here. Come on, they're only human. We're human. Let's go in there and tackle them and show them what we've got.
It's like a training session, isn't it? When you say, right, I'm going to give it all I've got.
Yeah.
It's another day.
Yeah, you can't just go through the motions.
Well, thank you, mate. And again, I want to be the best.
Yeah.
I'm an old man now, but I want to be. I still want to beat people.
Yeah.
And I still want to show. I'm a show off. Inside I'm a show off because I know what it's like to be admired and to be liked, and again that's another motivation. So I can't be sloppy. My training sessions. When I have a training session, and they'll say call me foul names, and I know that they've done well. I've had a good day.
Yeah.
But and I take training sessions like I played. I've got to have a good game. Don't always have a good game.
Yeah.
Don't always have a good game. Little things go wrong and things stop, and you feel that particular session isn't just quite going as they may maybe enjoying it, but you'll think they aren't giving me what I want. They aren't giving me what I want. And so what happens is you've had a bad game, you go away and you lay awake at night and you think, how do I, like say Tuesday, Thursday, what am I going to give them to lift them?
How do you get that extra?
Out of them.
Yeah.
And when you think like that and you act like that, you by and large you don't get it.
Yeah. I think it's almost something we're born with, and maybe people lose. Like my youngest lad is 2 years old, and he'll come up to me and he'll punch me in the face, and then he'll run off as fast as he can, and he thinks he can outrun me. Yeah. He's going for it. He's going for it. And they've got that attitude of, well, why not? Let's go for it.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether kids just lose that as they get older, maybe. Because when kids exercise, they don't realise they're exercising. They're playing tick.
Yeah.
When they go to play tick, they don't realise that's a lunge, a side, a reach across. They do all these movements and activities, and then at some point, exercise becomes something that's
it looks natural.
Yeah.
Well, I have a big garden. Up in the triangle, and because of all the equipment and I had scaffolding for the lights and everything, and I brought it all home and ladders and things like that, and I built a battle coach right round the garden, and I have a one-room bungalow built on the back. It's a brilliant room, really, with big sliding windows. And then the ladders went, and then up scaffolding, they were all on, right round the garden,
Really?
to a big cherry tree, the scaffolding round the cherry tree, then I had a commando swing, a seat with a bar, the full length right down to a tree, to this bungalow.
That sounds amazing.
And when they were very small, and then I told them, oh, yeah, here's a stopwatch, because I had two granddaughters.
Yeah.
And every day,